This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock, joined by Mr. John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette for a special post-election primary results analysis, not a typical Monday.
No, we did a prediction on Monday, and today...
You're going to make me eat my crow, aren't you?
We explain everything that happened, even if we didn't predict it, as if we understood it all along, because that's what pundits do.
Is this gets to where when you watch the battle and then you go out the day after and you shoot the wounded?
That's what some people say about what we do. Political commentators stand over to the side during the battle and then come along after the fighting and shoot the wounded. That's what Mike Beebe said of me one time. And
somewhat accurately.
I'm not going to, metaphorically, you can make that case.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
All right, let's begin with the Republican governor's primary. I think we expected Governor Asa Hutchinson to win, perhaps not as comfortably as he did. I say he exceeded expectations, and of the big winners last night, he may have been the biggest.
Well, here, Clark Tucker or Courtney Goodson, we'll get to all of that, right?
Yes.
You wanted me to go at your pace, didn't you? And
That's
start
right.
With, okay. Yeah, we sat here the other day and we thought, I put the over-under at 40. I mean, I thought there was like a hidden protest vote out there, and with us kind of a suppressed turnout that she could get up to 40. She, what, 30? Was end up 70-30?
Yeah.
Basically, as we said the other day, I said some people were thinking that he would beat her about as much as he beat Curtis Coleman. He did.
Yeah.
Very, very similar. I think Asa just sort of, he's like Nick Saban in Alabama against the Razorbacks. He decided, okay, they think they're good. Let's show them. Let's show them what good is. And he like won 83-6 basically. Put the word out. This is the Arkansas Republican Party that I grew up in. It's a party that can govern, and this is mostly noise over here, and we need to tamp it out. And I think he is somebody. It kept her from getting any money. Maybe she just couldn't raise it, but I think she didn't have any funds, and it was a very one of the earliest victory speeches I've ever heard. About 8:45, maybe.
It was before 9 o'clock. Yeah.
And yeah, it's Asa. It is still, for 4 more years, Asa Hutchinson's Republican Party, which is sort of a pragmatic. I hesitate to say moderate, but on occasion, I'm kind of moderate
Govern
Republican.
from the middle to the right of center.
Exactly, and
but
beyond
not on
that,
the extreme.
Beyond that, Linda Collins Smith, one of the most. Were you going to get to that, or am I getting ahead?
Bring it up now.
Probably one of the 2 most right-wing members of the Senate, sort of an impractical right on guns and a steady opponent to Medicaid expansion, was defeated by a young Asa-type Republican from Independence County and the state Senate, and then her only rival for the most conservative, Brian King, who was wound up in a race with yet another quite conservative, Bob Ballinger. Brian King up in Northwest Arkansas, up at Green Forest, not Prairie Grove, as I put it in my column, Green Forest, got beat. So it was a bad night for the conduit of for action right. And a good night for a pragmatic, responsibly conservative Arkansas Republican Party in the image of the current governor, Asa Hutchinson. That's what happened.
And that's why I say he was the biggest of the big winners last night, because not only did he win convincingly and more than I think by what most folks thought he would win by, but he also too gets 2 friendlier people in the Arkansas State Senate for his agenda.
You were thinking in a linear way and I wasn't. So you're right. I see that. It's also, he's a big winner in terms of the party that surrounds him remains largely in his image. It's a party that's his and not one he's losing to the extreme. So yeah, I will, after brief thought, concur that with your assessment that he was the big winner.
All right. Another big winner last night,
yeah.
Clark Tucker in Congressional District 2, the Democratic primary. I think we were all watching. Would he win without a runoff, or might it teeter just right under that and he's forced into a runoff with the number 2 finisher in that race? He didn't just win without a runoff. He won in a landslide without a runoff, 56% against 3
was
competitors.
Was it 56? I thought it was actually better than that.
Well, it may have wound up, the last I looked at it was 56. So.
Okay.
But nonetheless, 56,
either
57,
way.
it's big.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care who you're running against. If you got 3 opponents and you get 56 or 57% of the vote, you have done a good political job. I like the other 3, but as I told you the other day, I don't think he ever got started. I mean, I just didn't see it. He, Tucker, is a polished, capable candidate. A lot of goodwill toward him. Had a message with that health care commercial. Ran it and ran it and ran it until everybody knew it by heart. And you know, he got what? There were 30. I forget. Anyway, I was going to reduce his vote to total numbers. It's rather staggering that he got, but it comes to 56.
That race was over when the early vote totals came in Pulaski, Saline, and Faulkner County. He won 58 to 61% of those. Yeah,
there was no way. There was no way Perry County was going to overcome that, and not that they did. Yeah, it was an overwhelming victory. Now about that race, 40,000 votes cast. Now, around the country, people are saying the Democrats are fired up, big turnout. Not that big, 40,000. Of that 40,000 in this multi-county 2nd district, of that 40,000, and I'm rounding, 29,000 were cast in Pulaski County. I remember when you did your poll, and I questioned for a minute, really, you think 2/3 of the Democratic primary votes are going to come?
Should have been 3/4.
It was 3/4. There aren't enough Republicans, there aren't enough Democrats in Saline and Faulkner County really to have a good size cookout.
There also weren't any big primaries in some of those other counties. And Pulaski County was loaded with Democratic primaries this last time around.
But this race, this sets up the fall race. It is still French Hill's to lose. I mean, Clark Tucker is a great candidate, and the Democrats ought to be pleased. But already, here's the race. Clark Tucker wants to limit the hemorrhaging among Republicans in the outlying Saline, Faulkner, those counties. He does that with a good message, say health care, and he does it if some Republicans will do him the kind favor of staying home if they're not inspired. Republicans in French Hill know that, so how do they make sure they vote? They use the standard tactics, and they started it last night. Who are they running against? They're running against Nancy Pelosi.
Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi.
A guy told me today, just at this Life Quest class I led, he said, you know, you're talking about Tucker being a serious candidate. If he wins, he helps Nancy Pelosi become Speaker of the House. That's all you got to say in Benton, Bauxite, Greenbrier, Valonia, Conway, Searcy, outside Pulaski County. But Republicans have to be fired up, and they have to be frightened of the prospect in order to be motivated to vote at the levels to allow Hill to win his usual victory. So you're going to, Clark Tucker is now Nancy Pelosi as far as Republicans are concerned, and that's what you're going to hear. And it's going to be a good race.
It will be a good race. It'll be a big one there. Let's, before we jump to the Supreme Court race, let's touch on the Democratic governor's primary. Jared Henderson won about 2-1, roughly, in terms of that primary. Not an exciting primary. He still doesn't have a message that is defining who he is and why he's a better alternative to Asa Hutchinson. And that really, to me, is his challenge in the fall if he's going to be in any way competitive, which he starts behind on name ID, he starts behind on money, he starts behind on political organization, and he starts behind on the fact that there's more Republican voters than Democratic voters in this state.
Well, it's almost certain he's not going to contend seriously in this race. No fault of his own and no reflection on his skills. But no, this primary was essentially a non-event. He ran an ad at the end, and it was the word went out, mostly in the 2nd district where the Democrats were voting. Jared Henderson is the one. I met with him months ago when he was thinking about running, and he said, "I know I got to have a message that condenses to a phrase or two." And he was saying, "I want Arkansas to expect more." He said, that's what I want Arkansas to do, to aim higher, expect more. He said, Asa Hutchinson's computer coding program is a fine program. It would have been a better program 15 years ago. He said, that's the kind of thing he wants to convey. It's kind of a technical, non-sexy message, but it's what he's going to try to do. He's not going to get there to seriously contend, I don't think, but he does need to really contrast this new generation of a vision of Arkansas with what we're getting from Asa Hutchinson. There is a great divide in our culture between baby boomers like me and Asa Hutchinson And the folks coming along behind her think we've largely screwed up the world for them, basically. And that could be kind of the message here, generational. But, you know, as Asa has demonstrated, you know, he's like the Crimson Tide. He'll win the game when he has to. And I wouldn't, no fault of Jared Henderson, no fault of the Democrats. It's a tough road in this state right now.
We'll see how it goes. Let's talk Supreme Court race. I went on the record predicting that Kenneth Hickson would lead the ticket, thinking that his base of support.
And you know,
and he came in third place.
I thought
it was good logic.
It was good logic, and I thought, well, I wonder why I didn't think that when you said that to me the other day. And I went away from here, and I sent messages to people. Roby had a pretty good theory.
I heard from several of them.
Roby had a pretty good theory. Your theory was Hickson would lead the ticket because he represents the Northwest Arkansas District on the Court of Appeals. Courtney Goodson had run poorly in that area for a lot of reasons against Dan Kemp 2 short years ago. And you thought these Court of Appeals districts aren't static. They're not redrawn by population changes. It is an exploding district comparatively to other Court of Appeals districts. And that would carry him to the top of the ticket, and the fight would be for the runoff between Goodson and Sterling. Wrong, but no fault of yours. It was a good thing. Sometimes a theory is good even if it doesn't pan out. As it turns out, what happened there? And I think I sort of had it. I didn't predict it boldly. I just sort of talked around it. There is a backlash against the dark money. It just sort of, you could see it starting to spread. People were going, I just don't like these people. These people coming in here with their big money, we don't know who they are, and saying these things that I don't think are true. And I'm going to send them, I heard people saying, I'm going to, and it occurs to me now that everybody who said that said, I'm going to vote for her, Courtney Goodson. They didn't say they're going to vote for Kenneth Hickson,
who
got hit just as hard.
Right.
Because she had maybe a higher visibility as a victim, but partly because I think going to court and getting on the local news, fighting them in court, I think she became the face of the resistance to the dark money. And I think that's the best analysis I can offer. Also, I think there's just some general feeling that she's been punished enough for marrying somebody we wish she hadn't married, you know, and it's
for whatever the reason.
Yeah, it's so. But now, just for perspective, we're looking at a race between Goodson and Sterling, and a lot of the legal establishment, bar leadership, political leadership didn't like that choice. They don't like Goodson's ethical issues. Sterling is an extreme right wing to the far right of Leslie Rutledge. And they went out and they recruited Kenneth Hickson so that they wouldn't be faced with that choice.
Yeah.
They said, you got judge before your name, you're from Northwest Arkansas, you're a perfectly fine judge, get out there and run. He runs third, and those folks are back with the same choice they didn't want. And it's going to be, the people of the state have rebuffed dark money so far. Will, in a head-to-head, will Sterling and Goodson be like Kemp and Goodson, basically? I mean, in a head-to-head, can she not get there? Or is this backlash I see going to make a difference from 2 years ago? Very, very interesting. And to me, I told a group this morning, yesterday, I didn't like Courtney Goodson at all. Today, she's looking pretty good because it's all about the matchup, you know? And if you're worried about an extreme conservative like David Sterling, then there you go. Courtney Goodson is your candidate.
The world, according to John Brummett. I think we've done a fine job on the analysis.
Not the world,
here.
just our little corner of it here. Yeah. And don't feel bad about that one mistake you do. And your polls, the proportions vary because it's sort of a volatile electorate.
But they were generally in the right direction.
You have never, and since 2010 when I started keeping up, you and Henry's College have never been embarrassed by a poll.
Nope.
That you've been there.
Here's my takeaway on both the Supreme Court race and the data from the other. I went with my gut. I didn't have any data to go on Hickson other than just what I saw last cycle.
You don't go with your gut again.
I went with the data on the other ones, and the numbers were right. You know, Asa was in the lead, Jan Morgan around 30. Clark Tucker, striking distance of going over the top without a runoff.
Yeah, your poll
Gwen Combs in second place.
You had it right.
Second,
you had it right. Yeah, the numbers vary a little.
Right.
But you had it right on, as you have had every time.
Stay with the data. Avoid the gut.
Yeah,
that's my new lesson.
Don't trust your brain. Go with the numbers you get. There you go. All right.
John Brummett with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. As always, good to be with you.
My great pleasure.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. That's all for today's program. We'll see you next time.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across 2/3 of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.